Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another Be Live TV. I'm Jason Balin. Sitting next to me, or in the camera next to me, in a completely different location, is Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. So today we're going to talk about investing in real estate while working a full-time job. So one of the reasons that we thought this would be a good topic is because this just happens to be our topic at our meetup group. Our meetup group meets the third Wednesday of every month, typically in Columbia, Maryland. We're in Nottingham's in Columbia, Maryland. Go to, I think the website's here it is, hardmoneybankers.com/meetup group. That'll just redirect you to the meetup site. It's a free meetup group, no selling, no pitching, no gurus. Local active investors that are currently doing deals today in this market and strategies that are working for them. And you get to learn and hear a little bit about their personal stories of what is and is not working. So Ian obviously knows, even though Ian's not speaking tonight, Ian has spoken at a lot of our events. He's one of the advisors. We have kind of a core group of a few of us that really put in a lot of time and energy to make sure this is a really good local meetup group. But Ian is actually one person that does know a little bit about this topic because he does invest in real estate and he actually does have a job as well.
That's it. That's what you want to call it. Everyone says we have an easy job, but we do go to work 2 days a week. So,
I mean, that's fine. I mean, you make income from a full-time job and you're dedicated to your full-time job, but you also do invest in real estate. And when you did invest in real estate, when you started to invest in real estate before you owned any other properties, you still had that job and you still continue to have that job.
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, even with our job, it's actually at the job we're at, sometimes we get free time and other times, we might be out on the street for 24 hours at a time. And, if you don't have the mechanics in place to be able to handle the jobs while you're at work, it can become an issue. And I know a lot of people have this issue when they're trying to get started on, I got a job. How do I handle this? I can only go at 5 o'clock, but these are some of the things we're going to talk about today and tonight. So,
yeah, absolutely. Why, let me ask you a question. Why, when, I don't really know what you make at your current job, but obviously, a lot of people want to work more or get a second job or invest in real estate for the financial element of it. That's typically one of the reasons. What was some of the reasons why you wanted to jump into real estate?
Well, for me, it was, I left my job landscaping, went to go work for the Baltimore City Fire Department. It's an awesome job, but in the end, a lot of people go to government jobs for, the benefits and, a little less pay, but for benefits and retirement, those types of things. And a lot of those things are stripped from us. And in the end, we had to provide, I had to provide for my family. And it was the only thing I could think to do where I wasn't working with my hands per se every day, because we were landscaping on my 4 days off or my 5 days off. And you can only work so much. And I had to think of something that, something that I can make money while I'm asleep. That's how I looked at it. While I'm laying in bed at work or I'm out on the street at 3 o'clock in the morning, how can I still produce income? And for me, it was rental properties, and that's how I got my start. And it's been a great supplement. And I know, hey, 20 years from now, if my pension's not there, we don't pay Social Security, that hopefully, I still have all my assets and I can either sell them or I'm, producing stable income.
Yeah, I think the key word there was laying in bed at work. Most jobs don't have that luxury to lay in bed at work, but that's all right. That's all right.
We'll take that term loosely because next time I'll go live. Next time we're out at we're out at 4 o'clock in the morning with 4 cars on fire. I'll give you a call and go live and make sure everyone gets woken up.
We certainly appreciate your service on that. Yeah, but I think it just goes to show it doesn't really matter if you work, for the government, you have a 9-to-5 job, you have any other type of job. Real estate's a great way to supplement income. Real estate is a good part-time gig or a full-time gig, and there's a lot of reward. There's a lot of financial benefits, short-term and long-term. And you know what? You can wholesale deals, you can flip deals, you can buy rentals. Just put a few of those on the board right now. And again, I believe that investing in real estate and working a full-time job, sometimes I even believe that a lot of the investors that have full-time jobs are also full-time investors. And just because you hear the word full-time, that doesn't mean that that's probably not the right term, right? Full-time. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're working 40, 50 hours a week. It's up to you. You dictate it the way that you want it. To be honest, when we started our business, we worked probably more than we work now, based on it. It's our full-time job, but just because we had a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of learning, a lot of things that we're involved in. I mean, we're not going to go into the difference between a job and a business. If you just listen to the Facebook Live I just did a little bit ago, we talk about that, our individual jobs. But the goal is to really, with this, is to figure out what you want out of it and put in the time, the effort of what it needs to be. You know, maybe like, hey, I just want to buy a rental property to supplement $300 a month in income because I just need an extra $300 a month. That's great if you want to do that. Or if you say, hey, I want to flip 100 houses because I want to become a millionaire in the next 3 years. Okay, well, you can do that as well. There's no right or wrong. It's just up to you of what kind of works for you. So Ian also knows some of the speakers that are going to be talking tonight. And I think a lot of you, if you're currently and actively investing in either the DC or the Baltimore area, you're going to know some of these names as well. And again, you know, these aren't necessarily investors that have flipped hundreds and hundreds of properties, own tons and tons of rentals, but they own a few rentals. They flipped some properties before, and they're going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you know, being a real estate investor, although understanding real estate's easy, doing the transaction, executing, there's challenges, and it can be hard if you don't follow the proper things. So why not come and learn from experienced investors that are doing it?
Right. And I think a common theme you might see tonight is people are probably going to talk about process, you know, and recreating all the same problems that someone works a 9 to 5 versus a full-time investor. The problems are the same, right? It's contract, It's money, it's the speed of the deal. It's those types of things. And I think you're going to see a reoccurring theme, whether a full-time investor, you know, like one of us is up there, or somebody, you know, that's speaking tonight that's only doing a few deals and working a full-time job. You're going to see the same common problems. And to go back a step, I think one of the biggest things that you're going to see is talking about process. You know, real estate's nice because it's a recreatable business. Whether you're lending money, right? You already have all the documents, the paperwork, you know the areas. If you're building houses, you have the contractors, the material, you know what you need to do over and over and over again. So it's something that can be recreated, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And again, it's molded to anyone. It can work any way that you want. You can buy rentals. You can buy one rental. You can buy 100 rentals. You can do one flip. You can buy 10 flips. You can do some wholesales. You can do this. Every deal is unique. I mean, I will tell you, and this is the dead hard truth, that 90% of the people that will come to this meetup group tonight, which will be 150 people in that room, will not do a deal. Right. Are you capable of doing a deal? Absolutely. I'm not that smart. Ian's not that smart, but we're ambitious and we execute, and we're really serious about our business and what we do, and we're serious about making money, the financial element of the business. I promise you that most people in that room are smarter than us, right. But they may not be more ambitious. And if you want it bad enough, you make it work.
So yeah, I remember, I mean, my first deal was crazy, right? Like going out there, borrowing money from a lender, someone like you, having no clue what I'm doing, and just taking a shot, not knowing how to refinance it. But that's the biggest thing to get started, is to take that leap. And once you're out there, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I guess having a full-time job, a lot of people get that comfort level of not, oh, you know what, I'm paying Social Security, I'll have it, and I'll work a few hours of overtime, and I'll take away from my family, but I'll make a few extra bucks, and it's fine. But if you really want to free up your lifestyle, it's or you want to grow assets or whatever it may be, or produce new income, you got to take that leap of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually love the fact that you can work a full-time job and invest in real estate. I know a lot of investors, and we do a ton of loans for investors that, let's just take the word full-time out of it, because that's just not the proper word. It's just not a good word to represent what this is. I know a lot of people, a lot of investors, and we're doing loans for them all the time, and friends that I know very well that that have another job, and they also invest in real estate. Again, I don't know how many hours they put into it, but they do what they got to do to get it done. Obviously, some strategies are easier than others. Some strategies have less risk than others. Some strategies have less time. Obviously, wholesaling a property, I would hope, would take less time than flipping a property. There may not be as big of a gain to it, but it would take time. for each your own. Just figure out kind of what works with you. Follow on some previous videos that either one of us have talked about, and we'll talk about figuring out what resources you have. Do you have money? Do you have time? Do you have a good sphere? Can you raise capital? Can you go negotiate with sellers? Figure out what you have, and that backs you into what you're at. But I do love the fact of having a steady, or let's use the word stable, consistent income, and then also being like, hey, I have this consistent income. I love working. I love my job. I love doing what I'm doing. I'm making the money to pay the bills, which is the most important thing. You never want to go try to hit a home run, because you'll never hit a home run unless you have your stable income and your money in place. I promise you'll never hit a home run on that. It is so hard to do. You need to have your stable, steady income, your family taken care of, and after that's taken care of, then you can go and try to hit a home run or get supplemental stuff in the door. So I love that you have that kind of out of the way, and then you go and start working, because guess what? Worst case scenario, you fail on a real estate deal. You don't go bankrupt. You don't, as long as you properly do it, you don't go bankrupt. You don't have to figure out when your kids are going to eat next, because you already have that income to fall back on. So I think that's important. So
here's a question for you. Do you think hard money bankers would be where it is today if you and Chris had a full-time job and was quote unquote doing this on the side or doing it on your free time? Do you guys think you would have advanced this far?
No, probably not. But net financially, who knows? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. One question that, if any of the guests, and keep in mind, the guests that are speaking tonight, they don't 100% know what questions we're going to ask them. I mean, we're going to try to make sure they tell their story. I think it's very valuable to everybody in that room that could be in a potential situation, similar situation, or other full-time investors in that room, understand the stories about it. Not a presentation. We're not doing presentations. We're not pitching. If you want to pitch, there's a RIA tonight that some out-of-towner is going at that you can pay money to go into, and he'll pitch you a $1,000 product. I'll tell you exactly how it's set up. We're not doing any of that. No pitching. Yeah. It's free. It's free. But it's important to help some of our speakers, because they're not professional speakers, of what's important to communicate and what value everyone can get from listening to them. So we have some good questions so we can really understand their story of what worked and what didn't work for them. But I like being a business owner. I like being an entrepreneur, and being a business owner is not for everybody. It's not for most people. So most people, it's better to have a stable income and do something that's a little bit more risky on the side. I have a risk tolerance for it. That's just the way I'm wired. Not everybody is like that. So if it wasn't this business, we would have found another business. I mean, Chris and I originally, when we jumped in the hard money business, when we created a business, we actually didn't know what business we were starting. We were originally going to start a mortgage company, a straight mortgage company, which I'm glad we didn't, because I really enjoyed this business. So again, if you ever talk to any successful person, they'll usually tell you that they're lucky. And I do believe that I'm lucky that we found a good business model that works for us. There's a lot of good business models, but for our personality types, this was a lucky one that we kind of just fell into. So again, going back to that question, I was just going to say, one of the questions I'm going to ask people tonight is, do they feel like they want to continue forever to work their full-time job and just do real estate on the side? Or is their end goal to eventually build a big enough real estate portfolio where they quit their job? Right. And I think that's going to change. I think that's going to differ on everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard question. We've thought about it. I mean, to reflect what we were just talking about, it's a question on the similar lines is, I don't think me and Dan today could have advanced where we are by not having full-time jobs and not relying on the money that's coming out of the company and being able to reinvest into new assets. If we were solely relying on this, I don't know that we could have grown as fast as we've grown today. And personally, it's there's some days I'm like, hey, quit my job. But then there's other days it's like, for us, we got to work 20 years to get a pension, or 25, depending what the mayor decides to do or not do. But you know what? That's half my pay and benefits for the rest of my life. So it's almost like putting in your time in the service, no matter where you are, whether it's here or getting enough quarters for Social Security or whatever it may be. It's not a bad idea to make it to the end if you can hold on to have that almost an annuity, right? So
I love it. I love it. In 1 second, I'm going to tell you why I really, really like it, and why the reason that we start businesses in order to make money to begin with. We're going to go over that We're going to go over that in a second, but also the three speakers that are speaking tonight, if you know them or you don't know them, Sean Magner, well known in the Baltimore area. We got Pete Belden, he's in the Baltimore area as well, and then Aaron Foster is in the DC area, and all three of them have different types of jobs. Go back to their, they have different types of jobs, and they also invest in real estate between rentals, flips, and wholesaling as well. So they're all, there's a mix. And if you just tuned in, we have our meetup group tonight. It's the third Wednesday every month. So it's May 17th, which is today. Doors open at 6 p.m. Don't be late. We got about 200 or so registrants, which means 130 people will show up. And the room holds about 130 or so. So we're at Nottingham's in Columbia, Maryland. All you got to do is go to hardmoneybankers.com/meetup group to RSVP. That'll redirect you to the meetup site. No selling, no pitching, no gurus. We don't do any of that stuff. If you want that, go to a local RIA and pay money and go to that. But that's not what we do. Local investors telling their story to help you grow as real estate investors. There's only so many real estate investors in the DC and Baltimore area. And the reason that I know that is because we're very active on internet marketing, and we have about 11,000 people on our Facebook page. And I spend a lot of money to try to acquire every real estate investor locally because I want to do loans for them. And we've been at 11,000 for a long time, and we spend a lot of money to try to acquire new people, which leads me to believe that there's about 11,000 investors in our market. So anyways.
You just need a viral video and you'll grow your page.
Well, I want good local real estate investors or newer investors that haven't done deals yet. New investors, existing investors, everybody. Okay, let's go back to this. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, ask your question below. You can comment on here and we can answer your question for you. We have no problem with that. If you want to be on the show, and when we're only going to do the show for a little bit longer, I got to do some more prep for our meetup group tonight, but there's a link. You can click on that and put on your webcam if you're on Google Chrome, and your shiny mug will show up in the green room, and we'll plug you in, and you'll be in there. And actually, I can put this on the screen as well. This is hopefully you can see that, but that's our meetup group, and we have a bunch of advisors of the meetup group. I'll introduce them to you tonight, who's ever there, so you can if you have properties you want to sell, if you have properties you want to buy, if you need construction help, things like that, people will help you. Okay, so go back to this full-time job real quick. Ooh, thanks, Aaron. You just tagged me in a post. Hopefully it's the post that of this meetup group right now. Aaron, if you're watching, jump on the show, ask your question, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so going back to this full-time job thing, being a full-time real estate investor or a full-time job or having a full-time job, to me, it really doesn't matter what you do, because there's one goal in your job or your business short term is to make the money that you need to invest in assets. That is the goal. Now, real estate is unique because it happens to be an asset itself, not necessarily a flip. That's just a deal. That's just, fee-based, let's call it. You're spending time to collect money. Same as a wholesale, but a rental property obviously is a true asset and a long-term asset with a lot of positive benefits. But the purpose of it is, and the reason that I like your guys' strategy, because you have stable, consistent income that's coming in on a regular basis. It's the goal of that is to figure out what you're doing with that after the fact. Obviously, you pay your bills, although you got a reverse of your bills don't get paid first, you get paid first, meaning you have to invest in an asset first, and then you pay your bills secondary, which is complete opposite of what most people think. But again, figure out what you want to save first, and the rest of it goes to pay bills. And obviously, don't take on bills that you can't afford or debt that you can't afford. So working that full-time job, my full-time job happens to be lending. Your full-time job, is anywhere between, working at the fire department and some investments and stuff like that, is take the money and invest in an asset. So even if it's a job that maybe you don't love, but you make decent money, you have some flexibilities, you have the ability to do other things, I don't even recommend leaving there. It's, hey, keep what you have in place, right? But use that money to invest in real estate. Use that money to invest in an asset, any asset on a regular basis, because that's the end goal, is set up retirement accounts, set up maybe some rental properties for some passive income. So you don't necessarily need that cash flow from the real estate on a regular basis, as long as you're investing in assets on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's been a business model for us, and that's the advantage of having our full-time jobs is, our wives can take care of all the bills at home, and everything we make here, we can reinvest and grow our portfolio. And oddly enough, it's, you always talk about snowball in the Warren Buffett book. It's crazy how fast it starts to get rolling and you start to take the money out and off you go. So,
yeah. If you haven't heard the term snowball, Google Warren Buffett snowball or Google my name snowball, because I believe that our book comes up with the term snowball as well, our whiteboard book. But the term snowball, real simple, won't go too far in depth on this, is, you start small. Listen, when you make a snowball and you work real hard to get that ice tight, it's not that sexy. It's small, but then you push it down the hill, it gets a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gravitates and it gets larger and larger. All of a sudden, the goal of it is you can't even control the snowball since it's so big, and that's how money works. That's how assets works. That's how a lot of things works. I'll never forget one of the reasons I wanted to get into real estate was, I saw a national speaker that owned a ton of rental properties. It was probably like 15 or 16 years ago, and he stood on stage and he had all these checks. They looked real. I don't know if they were or not. And he was like, let me tell you guys, with all these rental properties, I can't stop these checks from coming in, even if I wanted to. And he waved them all around, and he had a ton of checks. He goes, I can't stop these checks from coming in, even if I wanted to. And I was like, yeah, I want unlimited checks. So that's how the snowball works. And you say, well, I don't have any extra disposable income right now, or whatever it is. Well, you figure out a way to get some. And I'll tell you firsthand that even if you save a few $100s a month, over, months and months and months and years and years and years, it turns into a ton of money as long as you do it consistent. So that's important. So, you take your income, you invest into your assets first, pay yourself second, pay your bills. And then over time, you accumulate that money from your job and you start investing in real estate. So again, we got some questions that came in. I'd love to answer your question, Aaron. If you're watching this video and you look at the comment below, you can see Aaron's questions. He has a really unique deal that hopefully someone can help him. He's speaking tonight, but just because he's speaking doesn't mean that he knows everything, right? He's flipped a few properties. He owns a bunch of rentals. I've been chatting with him about helping evaluate an interesting property he's got in Southern Maryland, where it's one lot with two single family houses on the one lot. Pretty interesting situation. No comp, really no comps either on it. It's kind of unique, but maybe someone will help him with that. He's going to help everybody explain kind of his workload about how he runs his real estate investing business while working full time. But again, the purpose of a meetup group is everyone comes, they meet up, they share stories, good and bad, with the community. Obviously, we like to bring on people who we think can show a lot of value to you. But instead of kind of teaching, preaching, things like that, we like to incorporate stories of this is what worked. This is the person to call in Baltimore City if you have a problem with a Section 8 tenant. This is the contact in DC. Just things like that. That's what's important. So looks like we got a question coming in from Glenn Eunice. Let's see what it is. Let's see. I can't tell if this is one question or two questions. When is a good time to go from self-managing my rentals when I have a full-time job? When is a good time to go from self-managing my rentals when I have a full-time job? That's what it is. You want to start with that, Ian?
Yeah, from self-managing my rentals when I have a full.
Yeah. So the question is, he's self-managing his rental properties. Let's just call it a few rental properties he has. He's self-managing them. When's a good time to go from self-managing, maybe to get a management company in place, because he has a full-time job, or is it, hey, just grind it out and stick it, save the extra money, do it yourself?
Yeah, it's really what your tolerance is for it. If you have a job that you can answer the phone when a tenant calls and you can handle emergencies, probably there might not be a good time until you decide that, hey, I have enough workload. But if you're at a job, where you can't access the phone, I have prior to, I used to sell turnkey real estate. We had two investors. They worked on the oil fields out in the Gulf of Mexico, and they needed a full-time property manager just because their work didn't allow them to answer the phone. They're stuck on a boat. They're stuck on an oil rig. They're out in the Gulf doing their thing, so they can't even access the problems when they had it. So I think it depends on your job. Personally, I noticed when I was at 5, it was still manageable. Even 10 was manageable, but 10 starts to gather some time. You're starting to spend some time making sure who's paying you, who's not, evictions, service calls, and also depends on the quality of the property. If you have a good quality property in a Class A neighborhood that doesn't require much service from your tenant, maybe you can get away with it longer than someone that's investing in, areas that are a little more, closer to C-class areas, a little more diverse, a little more problems, a little more babysitting. So it all depends on your workload and, what you can handle.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, all of our rentals are managed. We had a management company outsourced until we had about 10, maybe it was 8. And then we brought them in-house, and, in-house was expensive, and it still is kind of net paying a premium for it, but we have a lot more control over it, and it just worked better for us because we were more active, we wanted to be involved. I've always said that you can handle one rental property yourself, and then as soon as you get to 2, it kind of becomes a nightmare. But again, if you want a management company to run some of this stuff, it could get expensive based on it, and it depends on what your cash flow is. So it depends on how you want to be involved. I mean, we both know a lot of people that own dozens and tons of rentals, and they self-manage all of them. Again, that is their full-time job, but again, it goes back to the tolerance of it. And I treat a piece of real estate like any other asset, that I own. I treat it serious, and I look at the biggest bang for the buck, and I say, hey, this management company is going to cost me $100 a month, and they're going to deal with a lot of freaking headaches. And maybe they're going to upcharge me for other stuff. But you know what? My time's valuable, and I'm willing to part with this $100 bill every month in order for them to take this property and handle it. So again, it really depends on, who you are and kind of what your tolerance is. But I'm in the mindset of let someone else handle it and then move on to the next one.
You can definitely grow faster. It's a cost. You got to look at it as a cost of doing business. When me and Dan started to scale our company, I actually handed my properties off to a property manager, and people are like, "What are you doing?" However, those properties I didn't have to babysit for that length of time, and we were able to concentrate on our business. And now we're slowly but surely bringing them back in house. Now that we have the system and the size of the portfolio actually, dictates that we can self-manage and bring it in-house and set the systems up for someone to be in place for it.
Yeah. No, I get it. All right, cool. Well, let's got another question from Glenn real quick. It helps allowing me to manage if I added 1 or 2. Cool. I agree. All right, cool. So, meetup group tonight, the Real Estate Investing Incubator meetup group. I'll be there. Ian will be there. Hey, man, appreciate the content or the compliment. Appreciate the comment about our content and the compliment. Hopefully you can make it to the meetup group tonight. Certainly appreciate that. So meetup group tonight, 6 p.m. We're at Nottingham's in Columbia, Maryland. The reason that we are in Columbia, Maryland is we do a lot of stuff with D.C. and a lot of stuff in Baltimore. And Baltimore and D.C. are very separate markets, but they overlap a lot as well. And it's a different market. And it's really good if you're in the D.C. area to learn what's happening in Baltimore. And it's really good if you're in the Baltimore area to learn what's happening in D.C. All good. It's all good stuff. We're in Columbia, Maryland at Nottingham's. Right now, log into the site real quick, see how many registrants. We got 193 people going. Typically, if we get around 200, it ends up being about 130 people in the room. So make sure you get there at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. The doors open, and we'll do our thing. Sean Magner speaking, Aaron Foster speaking, Pete Belden speaking. Belton. I say that Belden. Okay. Sorry, Pete. So no, it'll be good. It'll be good. This has been a really, really popular topic, investing in real estate, working a full-time job. I think it's very applicable to a lot of people. Even if you're a full-time investor doing tons and tons of deals, I promise you will get value from this. I promise you. There's still a lot of good stuff. So just do me a favor, RSVP at thehardmoneybankers.com/meetup group. It'll redirect you to the Real Estate Investing Incubator group. And, we'll do our thing. We'll do our thing. So, Ian, appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll see you at about 6 p.m. So
Right.
see you guys soon. No pitching, selling, or gurus. The Real Estate Investing Incubator Meetup Group. I promise you, the 2 hours that you're there, you will get value from. See you guys then.